It's just a short flight over the Russian-Mongolian border to Irkutsk in Siberia. We cross over the Kamar-Daban mountain range, then over Lake Baikal. Our first look at Irkutsk, that's the Irkutsk River, which joins the Angara River at Irkutsk. We're on the ground at Irkutsk International Airport. The sign says, "Have a good flight." We must be in Russia. There's an abundance of military monuments. We can't help but notice the wooden buildings with the ornate windows. We stop for a look at the Lacy House. It was originally built in the 1840s and was expanded in 1907. The Baroque wooden windows have become a symbol of Irkutsk. The city has strict rules intended to preserve these old wooden buildings, many dating to the first half of the 19th century. Time for lunch at the Senator Restaurant. On the way to our next stop, our guide proudly points out the new Grand Fortune shopping mall. We arrive at the Nomanski Monastery. A wooden building was built here in 1689 and replaced by the current stone buildings in 1772. Many notable people are buried here. This is the tomb of Gregory Shelnikov, an explorer who founded the first Russian settlement in what is now Alaska. This is a recent monument to Alexander Kolchak, leader of Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution. He was captured and executed here in 1920. The theme of the monument is unification. The figures on the monument are two brothers, one in a white Russian uniform and the other in the Red Army, lowering their weapons. Our next stop is where Irkutsk began, on the site of the original fort built in 1661. The Paskaya Church was built in 1706. It's the only building in the original Irkutsk fort to survive. Just across the street is the Church of the Assumption of Our Lady, a Polish Catholic church built in 1881 to serve the families of thousands of Poles sentenced to Siberian labor camps for their part in the Polish uprising of 1830. The Epiphany Cathedral is another Irkutsk postcard. The original was built in wood in 1693, and it burned, and was rebuilt in stone in 1716. Yakub Pukovov, a Cossack who built the Irkutsk fort in 1661, looks over the city he founded. It was a main Russian outpost beyond the Urals, and all expeditions to the east started here, analogous to St. Louis in early 1800s. Across the street from the founder's monument is the Eternal Flame and the World War II Memorial. Irkutsk is an interesting blend of old and new. The old wooden houses with green and blue shutters and TV antennas and satellite dishes. Irkutsk owes much of its development to the people who were sentenced to hard labor here. We're visiting a museum to understand the role the Decemberists played. In December 1825, Russian army officers led a rebellion against Tsar Nicholas I. The rebels were called Decemberists because of the action happened in December. 5 leaders were hanged and the rest were sent to Siberia, Kazakhstan, and the Far East. Among the first Decemberists to arrive in Siberia was Prince Sergei Vulcanski, a major general who had distinguished himself in the Napoleonic Wars. His wife, Maria, followed her husband into voluntary exile. Her hardships and dedication became the inspiration for Russian literature. This is the Vulcanski House, and most of the furnishings belong to the Vulcanskis. Prince Vulcanski was only allowed to visit his wife briefly in the early years of what turned out to be 30 years of exile. Maria Vulcanski brought a love of music to Irkutsk. In the fashion of the time, she held salons, inviting people to musical and theatrical performances. We're pretending to step back in time as guests of Princess Vulcanski in her salon.
very glad to see you here in the saloon of Mary Vulcanski. This place was one of the most beautiful, popular and famous in Irkutsk of 19th century. All of cream of Irkutsk society came here as a guests of Mary Vulcanski. All these people were attracted by the hospitality and talent of the hostess. A lot of composers of 19th century started to make their works in this Russian national style. Time passed by and a lot of the songs unfortunately lost their authors. But now we remember these songs like folk songs. This happened to very beautiful, very famous Russian song, Evening of a Girl. Please welcome Maria Tosheva. Now you will listen a very beautiful Russian romance called Sundress. Music by Alexander Gorylev, poetry by Alexander Polezhaev, performed by Maria Tosheva.
Wow, that was quite an experience. Now it's back through the city to our hotel to get ready for dinner. On the way to dinner, we get some more history lessons. This is the Natural History Museum. Tsar Alexander III ruled in peace from 1845 to 1894. This building was the seat of the White Russian government of Alexander Kolchak, 1918 to 20. And of course, Vladimir Ilyich. The symbol of the city of Irkutsk is the black Siberian tiger with a scarlet sable in its mouth. Our dinner tonight is at Little Asia. A wide variety of regional specialties like this stuffed pike, accompanied by lots of vodka. We stumble back to the hotel, our heads buzzing and our stomachs full. We're spending the day at Lake Baikal. On the way we pass the icebreaker Angara, now a museum, but it was once used to keep the shipping lanes open between Irkutsk and Lake Baikal. Our first stop is Baikal Museum. a good introduction to the environment and ecology of Lake Baikal. So here's some of what we learned. Baikal is big and old. It contains 20% of the world's non-frozen fresh water. Its volume is greater than all the Great Lakes combined. If we superimpose Lake Superior on the map, Baikal is a little longer, but Superior is 3 times as wide. But it's depth that matters. Baikal is 4,000 feet deeper than Lake Superior. And finally, Lake Baikal is the oldest lake on the planet. Now, armed with all that information, we can appreciate the exhibits of the inhabitants of the lake then and now, including the human enterprises around the lake, a unique ice-breaking railroad ferry, and an aquarium with the unique aquatic life of Baikal. And the Baikal seal, the only seal that completely lives in fresh water. The lake also has the clearest water in the world. We have one stop to make before we head out on the lake. The houses aren't as fancy as in Irkutsk, but the idea is the same. We're visiting the Church of St. Nicholas, the patron and defender of sailors and fishermen. It was built by a merchant who nearly drowned during a heavy storm on the lake, except for divine intervention. Back to the dock and our cruise on the lake. There's the Baikal Museum and a locomotive from the Circumbaikal Railroad. The water's flat today, but the local winds are complex. The locals have names for them. For example, the Gorny is an unpredictable gusting wind from the north that can reach hurricane force. It seems a little strange to be sunbathing in Siberia. Listvianka is a tourist town, and it's famous for its smoked fish. Fast food Baikal style is looking good. Must be lunchtime. Our lunch venue is a lakeside dasha in a birch forest. We're entertained by folk dancers and carriage rides. On the way back to Irkutsk, we stop at the Tulsi Museum of Wooden Architecture and Ethnography. The museum was founded in 1969 to save old historic wooden buildings threatened by the rising waters due to dam construction. Not only have they rescued the buildings, but they've filled many of them with period artifacts. The centerpiece of the museum is Savior's Gate Tower of the fort of Ilminsk, dating to 1667. Then back to Irkutsk to pack up. After breakfast, we're at Irkutsk International Airport. The Black Pearl is waiting to take us to Moscow.